You're listening to the Good News Podcast with Jamie Holtum, brought to you by NBUC.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Good News Podcast. We are so glad that you've joined us today. This is an incredibly special episode. We have our Mayor of Brampton, Patrick Brown, joining us today, as well as Gwyneth Chapman. Gwyneth is the senior advisor around anti-black racism, and what an important role that we need in our city. As we talk to Gwyn and Patrick today, we're going to celebrate what's happening for Black History Month, but also look at how we as a city can respond to racial injustice and work together for a better Brampton and beyond. Thanks for joining us today. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Good News Podcast, and so glad that you could join us today. I am super excited to have two guests with us for this very special episode, Patrick Brown and Gwyneth Chapman. Patrick I probably doesn't need an introduction. You all know him as our amazing mayor, and so grateful for what he's doing, especially these days through this pandemic. We'll talk a little bit about that. Gwyn is senior advisor around anti-black racism, and what an important conversation for us right now in our city, in our world, but especially as we head into February and Black History Month. So we'll talk a bit about that as well. But guys, again, thanks so much for joining us today. If I could just start with, how is your life in the midst of this pandemic that we're living in? Why don't we just start with Patrick, and then we'll hear from Gwyn, if that's okay.
Well, I just finished snow shoveling, so winter has added a new element to our pandemic mix. But it's tough times. We're all managing. I am enjoying. You always look at the blessings and everything, and I think the extra family time, being at home with my wife and son is special. But I'm also mindful of the fact that a lot of people right now are sick because of COVID-19. There's businesses that are really struggling, and you look at everything through the lens of your own life. And I think of my grandmother. She's 106. She's in a long-term care home, and she doesn't have the social interactions. She used to have lots of family visit her all the time, and so when I think about my grandmother, I magnify that to everyone in a seniors home in Brampton, everyone in a long-term care setting, how hard it is for them. My cousin is a doctor right now, and it's a stressful time for him in the hospital. And so you look at all the healthcare heroes, and so I'm making the best of this challenging year, but I'm mindful that with every blessing that we have, there's adversity this year as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So well put. Yeah, thanks, Patrick. I think about you often, and just having a young family, that time that you've been able to have at home that you never would have had normally, as far as with your role as mayor. And then, as you say, just the challenge that is to see people who are in long-term care facilities. And I think, as we all know, the gratitude we have for people who are working in those areas and the responsibilities that are placed on them, and the incredible work that they're doing every day. So shout out to all those who are working in those facilities and places. Gwyn, how has this pandemic been for you, as far as what's your experience been like, and basically how are you doing today?
Well, I look at life always with a grateful attitude, because I think, when we go to sleep, we don't know what's going on. We wake up, and we wake up to a new day. And that new day is filled with such great opportunities. And the first thing is called life, to be alive. And what that means this is an opportunity, or this day is an opportunity for us to be, for us to do, for us to be kind to each other, for us to try to make a difference, for us to uplift each other, for us to just marvel in the wonder of life and all its colorful challenges, the beauty of people. There's so much that we can take in, but I tend to look at life, again, like I said, through those lens of being grateful and full of wonder. Because one of the things I've always asked myself as a teenager, 13, I said, what is the purpose of life? Why are we here? That was a question I felt needed to be answered. And it's kind of interesting that throughout the rest of my life, past 13, I've always been asking about that. And I feel that is what has led me to understanding that we have a greater purpose and that there's more to life than just, the 9 to 5 and the ordinary things that we do, that there's a deeper meaning of us being here. And we find that through being spiritually connected with the source, the God that created us. So it's been kind of interesting. And I feel that with all the challenges and the things that have taken place in the last little while, it has really allowed us to be more reflective and slow down the pace of how the world is going so fast, and allow us to see how vulnerable we are. And also, more importantly, to see how much we need each other and we rely on each other, and that how we are so connected. So I feel, looking at life through a grateful lens, this is an opportunity for us to really take a pause and appreciate each other a little bit more, and also to make that commitment to use our time, our life, and everything else to make things better for others, and to be a supportive, whether it's a supportive friend, to be there for each other. And I feel that knowing we can come together, there's endless of possibilities in how we can change the world, how we could change our cities, and how we can make things a lot, better for everyone. So I see what's going on as, a great opportunity for positive change, and for us to understand that we can really make a better impact if we just come together. And then there's a bigger picture, bigger purpose, and I appreciate the fact that our mayor also is thinking in terms of all the people that are struggling, all the people that are lonely, the seniors that are out there. Life is so different for them, and we need to always, keep in mind the struggles that are taking place, and see how we can offer some solution and help.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks for your positive spirit. Just love it, Gwen. And this is the Good News Podcast, as you know, and one of the things, Patrick, as we enter in here to this conversation today, I think sometimes we absolutely want to name the challenges that we see in our city, and especially in the midst of COVID. But sometimes people don't hear enough of the good news that's happening. That's partly why we want to offer the Good News Podcast. And Patrick, love to just hear a bit from you on where you're seeing good news lived out in our city, and especially now in the midst of this pandemic.
Well, Jamie, I can't agree. I couldn't agree more with you. Because sometimes when you look at newspapers, they focus on the bad. There tends to be, a crime incident is front page, or a scandal is front page. But sometimes the everyday heroes, the acts of love and generosity and faith are not considered newsworthy. And there's so many of them during COVID. I have to tell you, like every day my heart gets touched by an example. It could be, a girl who calls me up and said, like a 6-year-old girl who wants for her birthday party to have a fundraiser for the hospital. And she's asking all her friends, because they can't come to her house, to drive by and put a donation in the box for the hospital. I've seen businesses that are facing financial challenges still saying, I want to provide meals for the nurses. I've had a neighborhood association in Peel Village say, we want to bang pots and pans for the firefighters and police and first responders. You see groups that are saying, what can we do? We're going to make masks at home. There's been so many examples of wanting to help others during the pandemic. Frankly, I think one of the stories of the pandemic isn't just the challenges, it's the way people have stuck together. It's the way that people have stepped up, the way people are donating. Jamie, you're quite well acquainted with the work of Regeneration and Knight's Table. And it almost feels like on a daily basis, there's a different group in the city that's saying, Mayor Brown, will you come? We want to do a presentation to Regeneration or Knight's Table. I joked to Annie or Ted that I got to get an office in there. And being mayor gives me a window into seeing some of the generosity, just by the fact that they usually want me there for to officially oversee the donation. But from every walk of life, from every faith, from every corner of the city, I'm seeing acts of generosity. And so I think one beautiful thing that has come out of this pandemic is love thy neighbor, and we're seeing acts of love and generosity that I haven't seen in my lifetime.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I love it, and absolutely agree. And so we'll talk to you later. How can we pull out some of those stories, because we want to lift those up. That's part of the idea of the Good News podcast, and think our city could be really blessed by hearing more of this good news. Not that we don't want to also dive into where there's challenges, and we're going to talk a bit about that in part of this podcast in some ways as we move into Black History Month. But thank you so much. Just I love the energy coming from you as you talk about these things that are happening in our city
and Jamie, it's sort of intertwined, because I think during Black History Month, it's an opportunity to celebrate some of the community members that have been pandemic heroes. And I just mentioned Annie Bino, and I should mention that. But Annie Bino at Knight's Table, she's there every single day, early in the morning, late at night, selflessly trying to help the most vulnerable in our community. And there's if I look during Black History Month as someone we should be honoring and celebrating this year, it's Annie Bino, because imagine the amount of people that the Knight's Table has shown love to during this pandemic. Every time you go there, there's a lineup of people. Sometimes homelessness and food insecurity is not visible before your eye. You drive down the street, you don't necessarily see homelessness on the street. But when you go to a food bank and see the lineup that stretches longer than your eye can see, it shows the need is there. The need is there.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's a great example. And Gwyn, as we move into Black History Month, can you just share some things that are happening from a city perspective, from your lens as senior advisor around anti-Black racism?
Sure. Well, first of all, we are keeping a 2-day conference on Black political empowerment. And that is a very important aspect of helping our community develop to the point where they have a voice and they're able to be a part of making change. So we're excited about that. That conference, again, is going to empower, teach, and inform and connect the community with political leaders and those in leadership. And they hopefully inspire the next generation to get involved in the political process. We have an incredible conference also, February the 26th, focused strictly on Black youth, because, I don't really want to get into that too much, because that's just a whole serious and deep conversation. But we need to do a little bit more in terms of supporting, empowering, and guiding our young people. And we're creating this conference to give them a voice to actually share their concerns, and also to teach and show them different possibilities. We'll be bringing on incredible achievers and mentors who can guide them and who can inspire them to do more and to be more. There's a gamut of events happening as well throughout the city. There's stuff having to do with culture, arts, the arts. We've got a learning series that's taking place also internally for the Black staff, and we're going to be bringing speakers who are going to be telling their stories of victory, of challenges, and some of these people have been iconic political leaders, and they are over 80 years old. They're still with us. So they're going to be able to share, their journey. And again, we're hoping that would inspire our Black professionals and those who actually, it's open to the whole corporation. And so one of the other good news pieces that we just had the okay. We had the budget passed in December. So now we're able to bring on, people of expertise to help build the unit. And we're looking forward to that. And I feel once we have that going, we're going to be able to do a lot more for the city and a lot for the employees and the corporation. This is an exciting time. It's an exciting time. And we're just looking forward to the positive and progressive change that's going to be coming up. And we want to make a serious impact, which is what council, the mayor, and the CAO, they're all about trying to make that serious impact that really is going to be fruitful encouraging and empowering.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And I think you've alluded to it a little bit in what's happening over the course of the Black History Month this month. But what has been the impact of what happened last year? My sense is with the George Floyd situation. I think probably because of COVID as well, people were more online. I don't know what it was, but just the conversation got raised up in a new way, to a new level, and rightfully so. And I guess I just want to name as a white male, I recognized in a new way than I ever had before the privilege that I do have, and so just how is that what we experienced last year? How is that impacting Black History Month as we move into it? I think my sense is some of the things you've named may have come through that, but just would love to hear maybe from both of you if that's okay,
Yeah.
Patrick, and then Gwen.
Well, I'll start off, Jamie, by
Mhm.
saying the anti-black racism unit came from that moment. It was
Really?
now institutionalized in the city. I think we were all profoundly
Yeah.
affected by what we saw so visibly, and realizing that um, institutional racism isn't. I think there's an awakening that it's not something of the past. That it's in our neighborhoods, it's in our communities. I think we'd be naive to suggest it's not in Canada,
Yeah.
not in Brampton. And so, I think our hope at the city of Brampton was this would not be a moment in time that would be forgotten.
Mm.
That there'd be change that would flow from this. So creating the anti-black racism unit was unanimously supported by council.
Awesome.
We also at the Peel Police said the policing needs to have more transparency. We passed a motion, Mayor Crombie and myself, to bring in body-worn cameras to ensure there's transparency.
Yeah.
In the instance of George Floyd, there was a camera that caught the moment. But how many other instances could there have been where there wasn't a camera there? I know, people are more digitally savvy now. There's more cameras, but I don't want any instance that could be swept under the rug. I want to make sure the good are protected and the bad are exposed. And I think transparency helps with that. And so I think this has had real effect in Brampton. You look at the school board where there was protest towards a belief in institutional systemic racism at the school board. The executive director lost their position. Trustee Kathy McDonald, who I'm a big fan of, led the charge there with Trustee Noka. And so we've seen real change, whether it's in policing in Peel, the city of Brampton with a new unit, in the school board with the change of the leadership. And so I think there was, this was not an incident that simply had systemic reaction in the United States. I think the reaction has been felt everywhere. No one wants George Floyd's life to have been lost in vain. We must learn from that tragedy and from that horrific incident that we all saw on our before our own eyes. And so I think we need to continue to. I hope that the lessons we've learned are not forgotten in the weeks and the years that follow. And hopefully Gwen at City Hall, along with Francis Bradshaw in my office, who's the leader for my office on Afro-Caribbean outreach, and Councillor Charmaine Williams on council has been very vocal. I hope within City Hall, these three forces of nature will continue to make sure we are honest towards our goals.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Patrick. Charmaine's actually going to be on the Good News podcast next week, so we'll continue this conversation with her. I know she's excited to not only share and talk about it, but as you say, execute on it. The word awakening, I think, is a really good one. That's my experience, and many's, I think, is we were awakened to an issue that was bigger and more relevant to us than some of us knew. But the commitment to make change, to change our systems, to change the positions that we have, even within our organizations and who are in them, that's very encouraging. So thank you so much for that. Gwen, what a role that you play within all of this. And so what are some of your thoughts on not only what happened in our response to it, but what are some of the things that we can be doing in the future together to keep working at this and bring the kind of change that we want to see?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I think honesty is one of the best things that we that we need to have in order to make change, in order to do things better. And having these honest conversations, both on the sides in terms of, our experiences as Black people is important to allow for us to be able to share what it means to be living in the body that we're born into. At the same time, I believe those who are outside of our community, if they are compassionate enough and courageous enough to give us the space and respect and appreciate where we are, what we've experienced, and to say, you know what, let me reach out. I'm willing to learn. I'm willing also to look at myself, to assess my views, assess and my conduct and the things that I say, to see if I'm a part of this issue or this problem,
Yeah.
and make that decision to be a part of change.
Yeah.
I'm not a white person, but I've always said and felt that if I was a white person, it would be an honor for me to advocate and to be that change maker for those who are not being treated fairly. At the same time, I appreciate who I am and the legacy that Black people have all throughout the world. And I just never really understood what this racism thing is all about. It never made sense to me. I've always said it's the most silliest thing ever. Racism, like, what is that about? We were just born into whatever bodies, not by choice, but we all beautiful people that have a right to be here. So our challenge, I believe, as a society is to really take a look and make that decision to be a part of positive change, to be a part of positive change, as opposed to just standing on the sidelines and saying, well, I don't do this, I don't do that, so I'm innocent, I'm good. No. We need you, every single person, to be proactive, to be interested in being a part of doing something that is going to change the lives of many people. When I think of George Floyd, I get very emotional, even right now, because I think we're in this setting. It's so heavy, and I've experienced my bouts of racism as a kid, living in Canada. And I remember when I was probably about 3 or 4 years old, my father at that time, who was the most awesome human being. He's with God now in heaven, but he's the most awesome human being. He showed me a picture. I think it was a picture of Time magazine. On the front cover was the KKK and Martin Luther King. I remember Martin Luther King's face. And I understood whatever my dad was saying. I really didn't get it, but I understood that bad things were happening to Black people in the United States. And I think from there, something in me was awoke in terms of me wanting to do better, wanting people to be okay, that concern for the welfare of people. And I think, we have to encourage as much as possible people being a little bit more compassionate, people taking more responsibility to really try to make a positive impact in their society, and to work towards the work of diversity and inclusion. So I'm hopeful with everything that's happening. There's more of an acceptance of the fact that we have to do something, and for those who understand, they are stepping up and they are saying, how can I help? And that's why I'm excited, with the work that we're going to be doing in Brampton, the amount of people reaching out, and also the Black community. The support is great.
Yeah.
And I think collectively we could do some incredible things. And with those in leadership that are supporting this and are so committed to the work, having them to lead the charge and to say, yes, we've got to make change. Yes, we have to be accountable is incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Gwen, you mentioned that, if you were a white person, you would be honored to step up and be a part of this conversation, maybe even lead this conversation. And I 100% agree. In fact, that's I think been a huge lesson for us through this year, that this is a matter that we all need to stand up and talk about, especially, and maybe in fact people who are who are white. Can you give any concrete, like, how can we do that? What would that look like? And because we're all, you know what I mean? And I know that we need to play all of our parts. So, but while we're having this conversation, I just can't not ask that, and love to hear from you about that.
Yeah, I think the first thing is for how do I say it? I would say we as white people, if I'm a white person.
Yeah, for sure.
I would say if I was a white person, the first thing I feel that's important to do is to be able to just respect another person. It doesn't matter what they look like, where they come from, but that level of respect, it's part of what humanity is about. So it's about embracing humanity and to be able to see the soul of somebody else, to be able to see that this person who may not look like us is still a part of us. I feel when you are able to respect people and see their value, that opens up so many other possibilities in the way we treat, talk, fight for each other, support each other. So it's about seeing I'm feeling like we're in church here, kind of, sort of, right? But it's about seeing somebody else through the eyes of God. And the fact is, we are all children of God. And he says we are to love each other and we are to treat each other just the way that he would want us to, I guess, relate to him, if you want to say. So it's about respecting each other and seeing the humanity in each other, and understanding that we are all part, we are all one family. I feel, again, that is the core. That is the core, and that is the key. Once you have that in you, once you inside your heart is open, you'll be guided to do all kinds of things. And the fact is that there are many things that people can do, from different systems, from even the way we interact with each other, the policies, the strategies, the action plans. There's a lot that we can do based on the environment that we grow, based on the professions that we have, the expertise and so forth, and just as being a neighbor, or friend of people who are from other communities. So I think, again, my first and probably most profound a suggestion is to see someone else, see you in someone else, and see someone else as your brother and sister. See the humanity in others, and from there, what you would do to somebody else, how would you treat that person if they were your family? If we can start thinking about that and making a commitment to stand firm on that, so when others are trying to do things that are not good, you have the courage and the compassion enough to say, this has got to end. This is not going anywhere.
Right.
We need courage and we need compassion.
I want to shout amen right now. And thanks, Gwen.
And this is what our mayor has. It's part of his character. And that's why a lot of people will increasingly respect him, because the more they get to know him, his character, the more that they will appreciate and value who he is, and the fact that he is the leader here in Brampton. He's doing a tremendous job.
Yeah, I agree 100,000%, and so appreciative of both of you and the message that's happening here in this podcast. I think people are going to be really encouraged and inspired by this. Just one more element for today. We live in a city, as we know, that is so diverse and so different, and that's both challenging, but also a great gift. And so, could you talk a bit about that? Some of the challenges in a city that's so diverse, Patrick, but also then some of the opportunities that we have to move beyond tolerance, but actually really living and sharing together, working together, sharing our life together. Yeah, just love to hear from you, Patrick, and then of course Gwyn as well. Yeah.
I think one challenge is sometimes there are divisions that exist beyond our borders, that can be brought back here. And I think the counterbalance to that is to know that we're all here in Canada together, that to build a better life, to love our neighborhood, our city, our country. And I've seen examples of that. So let me give you an example. 2 years ago, there was real tension in Kashmir between India and Pakistan.
Yeah.
And it was vitriol between the two countries. And a few of the community members said when they have the Pakistan flag raising, which is the day before the India flag raising in August, that they would, for Independence Day, that maybe members of the Pakistani community should go to the India flag raising out of respect, and members of the Indian community would go to the Pakistani flag raising out of respect and be there to celebrate their national flag. And I was really impressed by that, because here we are, you got a global dispute where people are at loggerheads and there's hate and there's vitriol. And then you come to Brampton and say, the divisions from abroad do not change how I treat my neighbor. We all go to the same schools together, the same restaurants, the same community. And so I think that's a challenge, to live in a multicultural mosaic. Some of the tensions that exist in the complicated world of global affairs can.
Mm-hmm. I think we lost your sound there, Patrick. Not sure.
Sorry, a call was coming. Maybe my voice.
Okay. Yeah, just that last sentence. Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Yeah. See, sometimes the complicated global divisions get brought here, and so part of our challenge is to make sure that we bring harmony to that. And to give you an example, when it comes to Black History Month, is I believe part of our responsibility in the city is where there's pain, that we come together out of solidarity. Yeah. And so something that happened earlier this year was there was some real brutality in Nigeria, some police brutality, where there was visible examples of abuses that would never be tolerated. And it became called the End SARS protests. And what I found to be an example of Brampton love is when there was the End SARS candlelight vigil in our community, people from other communities came out to say to the local Nigerian community, we stand with you. We see your pain and we grieve with you. And so I think that's a lesson we can learn, is that when one member of our community feels pain and is hurt, that we stand with them.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I love that term, Brampton love. That's awesome. That's cool. That's a great example too. And as we are aware of that kind of experience, more of those will come that we can do together. Love it. Love it. Gwyn, what would you want to say just to this diverse city that we live in, and how we can both recognize some of the challenges, but opportunities that we have to really come together?
Sorry, I missed the last. You went.
Okay, yeah, just anything you would want to say as we wrap up here today on the diverse city that we live in, and some of the challenges that brings, but also the opportunities to really come together.
Okay. Well, I think this. When I think about that, I think of a family. I grew up where there's about 22 young people in a 2-story house in St. Lucia. And we had a lot of interesting ideas, opinions, personalities, and so forth in the home. And there were some challenges. And in terms of just dealing with the different dynamics of personalities and needs and so forth. But I feel that every time there are challenges, it really allows us to be able to explore and to find solutions, because I feel that's a big part of life. And with the diversity in Brampton, I think it's an opportunity to create some new avenues and new ways and new ways of doing things and interacting with each other, and finding out how we can basically pull ourselves together to help create a more cohesive city that where all people are able to be seen, to be heard, but in a way that is unified, that is appreciated and celebrated. So I've always thought that diversity, just like a garden full of incredible, beautiful flowers, different I think it's always an opportunity to really add some value to ourselves, because there's so much that we can learn from others who are different. And I think those are the things that enrich our lives and inspire us to do better, to explore, and to embrace even more challenges, new frontiers, and all that good stuff. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity when we have so many people from various backgrounds, and we're able to finally come together, find ways of living side by side and supporting each other. Yeah.
Right on. Love it. Love it. Thank you so much. Last question, just to Patrick, to finish off with this, if we could. What could the faith communities be doing to be a part of this, or maybe even to help lead the way to this coming together as a city, racial reconciliation? Just love to hear any thoughts you have on that for us, and then we'll say goodbye. Thanks so much for being a part of this today.
Well, I'm a big believer, Jamie, in the power of prayer. And so, first of all, your prayers that we have in our hearts, the ability for that reconciliation, that we pray that examples of intolerance that have become far too common around the globe, that we have the moral strength to resist. And sometimes there is jealousy in people's hearts that say, "Oh, I blame someone else for this shortcoming," and that we need to understand that we're all in this together, and that we show love to each other. And so I think the faith community's prayers, but also understanding that within every faith community, understanding the perspectives of other faith communities, because sometimes there are division and animosity. When I look about reconciliation, I look at racial reconciliation, but there are other examples of intolerance. There is the challenges when it comes to sexual orientation, of it being welcoming in an inclusive city. There are examples of hate based on faith. Islamophobia has become more common, and so I think the key message that I would leave is learn about each other. And make sure where there is examples of stigma, learn. Open your eyes up. And spread that message of love.
Oh, that's a great way to end. In fact, since you talked about prayer, why don't I close us off with a prayer for us as we live into this, but also for our city and all who will be hearing and watching this. So let's just close with a prayer, if we could. Sure. Loving and gracious God, just echo these words and thoughts. And our prayer is that together as a city, we would really, really live into this, that we would be committed to learning about each other, to respecting one another in all ways, all races, all cultures, all genders, all sexual orientations, that we would come together like never before in this city, that you would lead, that your light would shine in and through all of us as we live this way together. So we entrust all of this to you. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Well, Patrick and Gwen, thank you so much for being a part of the Good News podcast today. God bless you. We pray for you and just appreciate your leadership in our city. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Pastor Jamie. Thank you, Gwen.
Thank you, Pastor.
You're very welcome. You're
Take
very
care.
welcome.
Keep up the good work.
Oh, thanks so much. And
We're
everyone,
praying for you too.
Oh, thank you. And everyone, thank you for joining us today on the Good News podcast. Glad that you could be with us. God bless you.
Thank you for listening to the Good News podcast with Jamie Holtham. If you liked what you heard today, please share it with a friend who may benefit from today's conversation. And if you want to hear more, be sure to subscribe to this show and turn on your notifications so you never miss an episode. Thanks again. We hope you enjoyed today's discussion, and we'll see you next time.